Captain Amy Brooks was savoring her hard-earned shore leave on Proxima Station when the unwelcome summons shattered the illusion. 3 drinks into a promising evening, Galactic Council courier drones tracked her down. The message, cloaked in politeness, held the weight of a dying star. Immediate diplomatic consultation required. Transport departs in 1 hour. Compliance expected. With a sigh, Amy drained her glass, left a tip that visibly brightened the bartender's day, and strode towards the docking bay, still clad in her off-duty attire. Faded jeans, an old Earth Navy tee, and boots bearing the scars of countless campaigns. The 4-hour shuttle ride to the Council station offered little comfort. "Captain," the pilot, a visibly anxious young man, announced their approach to the colossal orbital platform. "They're requesting immediate priority docking." "Take your time," Amy murmured, eyes still closed. No rush. The station materialized, a monument to bureaucratic excess. Kilometers of gleaming metal and holographic projections, designed to instill a sense of insignificance. Amy remembered a time when she'd arrived with hopeful eyes, believing in the power of diplomacy. Time had withered that naivete. The docking bay buzzed with controlled tension. Security personnel, a kaleidoscope of species, feigned composure. Thraxian guards stood rigidly, their chitinous armor shimmering. Colonian diplomats muttered urgently in their clicking tongue, overseen by a Vorthon administrator clutching a datapad like a sacred relic. "Captain Brooks." The Vorthon stepped forward, his voice laced with the metallic rasp of his breathing apparatus. "Administrator Kelthan, if you please." Amy stretched, easing the stiffness from the cramped shuttle seating. "Sure, lead the way." Kelthan hesitated, clearly expecting resistance, questions, anything. Amy simply waited. "This way," he finally said. They traversed corridors engineered to intimidate. Towering ceilings, holographic displays showcasing 1,000 worlds, and enough polished surfaces to induce blindness. Amy subtly registered the shift from diplomatic wing to holding area. Sparser decor, heavier security, and lighting that suggested a place where inconvenient truths were addressed. In here, Kelthan indicated a reinforced door, plastered with warnings in 7 languages. Beyond lay an interrogation chamber, soundproofed, harshly lit, with furniture bolted to the floor. 3 chairs facing a 4th. Amy recognized the setup instantly. Textbook psychological manipulation, designed to isolate and disarm. She'd seen it countless times, a prelude to monumental blunders. 3 figures were already seated, and Amy's eyebrows arched slightly at the sight. Arbiter Ziximin of the Alter Collective occupied the center. His species resembled a praying mantis crossed with a ruthless scholar. Compound eyes that seemed to dissect every detail, 4 independently moving arms, and an expression that exuded calculated discomfort. Commander Thakris sat to his left, a Vorthan military officer whose breathing apparatus was far more elaborate. His uniform, adorned with medals, suggested real combat experience, a rarity amongst council representatives. But the 3rd figure was the most intriguing. Councillor Vexandra of the Hijgamoni looked almost human, a reason to be wary. Evolved under intense gravity, her compact build radiated suppressed power. Pale blue skin, silver hair, and eyes that assessed Amy with the cold detachment of a butcher appraising meat. "Please, sit," Ziximin gestured with one of his limbs towards the remaining chair. Amy settled into it, noting how its low placement and the harsh lighting behind her were designed to undermine. Standard intimidation tactics. "Captain Brooks," Ziximin began, his voice a carefully modulated calm. "The Galactic Council has concerns regarding recent human activities." "Okay," Amy replied. "What activities?" "Kepler 442b, Commander Thakris interjected, his breathing apparatus hissing. 3 weeks ago, human colony ship. Disputed territory. Amy nodded. Mining rights issue. The world belongs to the hegemony, Counselor Vexandra stated, her voice a low, menacing purr. Human colonists were ordered to leave. They refused. Article 7, Section 3 of the Galactic Accords, Amy said mildly. First settlement rights supersede territorial claims. If the agreed resolution was finalized before the claim arose, then. Over 6 months later, the aliens exchanged uneasy glances. Ziximon's multifaceted eyes flickered, reflecting his species' mounting agitation. The colonists' forceful removal, Thackeray stated, wasn't a secret. So I've heard, Captain Zachamon affirmed, leaning forward intently. We must analyze humanity's response. Amy waited, her gaze unwavering. Vexandra interjected. The response was excessive. Amy countered. Was it? I wasn't present. Thackeray confirmed. No, but your people were. The room dimmed. A holographic projection shimmered above the table. Kepler 442, a yellow dwarf system with 6 planets, a lucrative mining prospect. We want to show you something, Zeximon announced, initiating the recording of the incident. The hologram displayed a human colony, unremarkable among dozens Amy had seen. Prefabricated structures, solar panels, atmospheric processors humming beneath alien sunlight. Vexandra narrated, the hegemony fleet arrived first. Standard procedure. A 12-hour evacuation notice. Sleek ships descended, landing gracefully around the colony's perimeter. Amy observed the tactical deployment. Textbook containment, minimizing casualties while maximizing pressure. Thackeray continued. The colonists refused, claiming salvage and mineral rights, invoking human law. Amy nodded. Sounds familiar. Humans are tenacious. The hologram showed hegemony forces encircling the colony, then civilians being escorted to landing craft. Professional, yet devoid of joy. Vexandra's voice shifted, laced with a palpable fear. This is where it gets intriguing. The hologram shifted to empty space near the planet's outer orbit. Suddenly, space tore open. Amy leaned forward, captivated. Warships emerged, not the usual merchant vessels or escorts, but angular, aggressive warships, moving with chilling precision, betraying crews intimately familiar with their deadly task. 18 vessels materialized unexpectedly, utilizing a faster-than-light travel method never before witnessed. A neat trick, Amy murmured. The human fleet formed a wolfpack attack formation, maximizing psychological impact and tactical flexibility. Ziximon continued. They demanded the colonists' immediate return. The hegemony fleet attempted negotiation. Vexandra's expression contorted in a grimace of disgust. Attempted? The human commander opened fire without warning. The hologram exploded in chaos. Human ships ruthlessly tore through the hegemony fleet with kinetic weapons, energy projectors, and what seemed like gravitational manipulation technology. The hegemony vessels, built for intimidation and policing, were utterly outmatched. 7 destroyed, 11 damaged, a voice reported. The remnants scattered. Amy nodded, impressed by the efficiency. Captain Zaxxon's voice, thick with despair, cut through the silence. This was a massacre. Your people annihilated a peaceful enforcement fleet. Amy raised an eyebrow. Peaceful? They abducted human civilians from a legally established colony. I'd call that an act of war. Vexandra insisted. The response was disproportionate. Standard protocols. Amy retorted, so were the humans. Standard human protocols. The hologram displayed the aftermath. Human ships landing, troops and equipment pouring out. Tactical teams secured the colony while engineers established defensive positions, fortifying the entire planet. Thackeray noted orbital platforms, surface-to-space batteries, and cloaked reconnaissance drones throughout the system. A thorough response. Ziximon fixed his compound eyes on her. We need to understand this military response. The technology, The tactics, the coordination. Where did it originate? Amy studied the hologram, noticing details the aliens missed: ship movements, deployment patterns, weapon signatures. "You want to know its origin?" she asked. "Yes," they chorused. Amy yawned deeply, a genuine bone-deep yawn fighting off sleep. "Oh, as for my first deployment?" Absolute silence. Zakan cautiously asked, "Your first deployment?" Amy stretched. "Yeah," she said. "Kepler 442 operation. I was a lieutenant then, fresh from the academy, first assignment with rapid response." Takrisa's breathing apparatus hissed. "You were there? Tactical coordinator for surface operations." Amy smiled. "Good mission. Clean extraction, minimal casualties, excellent strategic outcome. Makes you proud." Vexandra stared at her, as if Amy were a venomous serpent. "You personally participated in the attack on the Hegemony fleet." Amy looked genuinely puzzled. "Attacked? We conducted a rescue operation. The Hegemony fleet obstructed us. You destroyed 7 ships." Ziximon's voice was taut. "Observe," Amy murmured, gesturing towards a holographic display showcasing 7 starships cruelly imprisoning human civilians, a sight she met with resolute calm. 7 ships, hostages held against their will. She gently corrected herself. "We approached them cordially, initially. They refused our entreaties, so we employed a less delicate approach." The chilling hologram then illustrated human soldiers maneuvering with brutal precision through the conquered colony. A younger Amy, her face etched with determination, barked orders to local resistance groups as her team constructed a formidable defensive line. The alien Theocaris stammered, his voice barely a whisper. "Those weapons, that technology, we've never witnessed anything like it." Amy feigned surprise. "Really? I assumed Project Prometheus was common knowledge by now." Vexandra leaned forward, curiosity piqued. "Project Prometheus? A human military advancement initiative?" Amy clarified. "Been in the works for roughly 15 years. We initiated it shortly after first contact. The rationale was simple: prepare ourselves for the possibility that peaceful coexistence might not prevail." 15 years, Ziximon echoed, the disbelief evident in his voice. "Give or take. The gravitational manipulation systems proved unexpectedly challenging. Bending space-time, it turns out, is far more complex than theoretical models suggest. Who would have thought?" The 3 aliens stared at her, their expressions betraying a profound reassessment of everything they thought they understood about humanity. Captain Zaximon inquired cautiously, "Are you suggesting that Kepler 442 was not an isolated incident? That humanity has been secretly developing advanced military technology since the dawn of interstellar relations?" "Well, duh," Amy responded, a hint of exasperation in her tone. "We aren't fools. When you encounter alien civilizations with millennia of spacefaring experience, it would be remarkably naive not to dedicate resources to defense." "But the diplomatic treaties," Vexandra interjected, "the non-aggression pacts, the trade agreements, they remain in effect." "We harbor no desire to invade anyone," Amy assured them. "Our sole objective is to safeguard ourselves from invasion. And if someone dares to attack..." She paused, allowing a chilling smile to grace her features. For the first time since entering the room, she projected an aura of genuine menace. "They will experience the full force of 15 years of military progress unleashed without restraint." As the hologram abruptly vanished, plunging the room into stark artificial lighting, the 3 aliens were left speechless. Finally, Captain Ziximon declared, "We must acquire more information about these capabilities, about Project Prometheus, about humanity's strategic intentions." "Precisely," Vexandra affirmed. "If what you claim is accurate, then humanity is not the insignificant spacefaring species we believed them to be." Amy chuckled, a genuine sound that felt deeply unsettling within the confines of the interrogation chamber. Oh, we are undeniably minor. Only 60 years in space, barely establishing our initial colonies, still struggling to brew a decent cup of coffee in zero gravity. But that technology, Theocaris protested. Yes, we excel at that, Amy conceded. It has always been our forte. Rising to her feet, she glanced at her wristwatch. Speaking of which, I should probably depart. Shore leave is finite, after all, and I have a poker game scheduled for this evening. You are not going anywhere, Vexandra retorted, rising as well. This interrogation is far from over. Amy froze, her hand still resting on the chair. Interrogation, Zixamon elaborated. You are being questioned about humanity's military endeavors, about potential violations of treaties, and about threats to galactic security. Am I under arrest? Amy questioned. You are being detained pending resolution of these matters, Theocaris confirmed. Amy nodded slowly. What authority does the Galactic Council possess to detain human citizens? Vexandra cited Article 12 of the Galactic Accords, granting emergency powers during periods of potential peril to galactic security. Ah, yes, Article 12. Amy paused. And precisely how does humanity defending its own colonies constitute a threat to galactic security? Zixamon insisted the level of force was excessive. The technology represents a paradigm shift in the balance of power. Amy challenged. Or does it merely represent the first instance you've witnessed humanity genuinely trying? The question hung suspended in the air. Captain Thakris interjected cautiously. Are you implying that Kepler 442 did not accurately reflect humanity's complete military capabilities? A chilling smile spread across Amy's face, devoid of any comforting warmth. I'm suggesting that you should probably formulate better questions. She settled back into her chair, crossed her legs, and regarded the three aliens with a patience that suggested she could wait indefinitely for them to uncover their true inquiries. But since we are here, and since you exhibit such keen interest in that particular operation, why don't you enlighten me as to how you acquired that footage? The ensuing silence was pregnant with unspoken implications. I mean, Amy continued casually, the hegemony fleet was either obliterated or routed. Human forces secured all wreckage and conducted thorough tactical sweeps. So either you had assets within the system that eluded our detection, which would be impressive, or someone provided you with that footage. Vexandra's pale blue skin seemed to blanch further. And if someone furnished you with that footage, Amy pressed, I am profoundly curious about who, why, and what they might have omitted. Photocras's breathing apparatus became increasingly audible. Amy felt a creeping certainty, deep down, that this wasn't merely some engine trouble or a mechanical failure. Amy settled back, a knowing glint in her eyes. I witnessed it. I know the truth hidden behind that footage. What's missing? Zexamon's voice, strained, hinted at his dread. Amy's smile, chillingly precise, hinted at the secrets she held. The tenderness, the unspoken respect, the silence morphed from uncomfortable to terrifying. Gentle? Vexandra whispered. Precisely, Amy replied, leaning back. This footage portrays human restraint minimizing casualties, preserving structures, upholding diplomacy's facade. That's us being cautious, adhering to rules of engagement, minimizing force while maintaining moral authority. Fax's distressed breathing punctuated the tense atmosphere. That's being a responsible galactic neighbor, following protocols, resolving issues without escalating anxieties. Terror, pure terror, was visible in Zixamon's eyes. The footage shows humans, concerned with intergalactic reports, diplomatic repercussions, and our reputation as a reasonable spacefaring species. She stood, not for the door, but for the projector, assessing it as if it were a crucial piece of equipment. Impressive resolution. Temporal accuracy is good. I presume you have the raw sensor data, not just the visual reconstruction. Captain, Zextuan whispered, what are you implying? Amy turned serious. This footage shows a controlled military operation designed to minimize harm, preserve enemy assets for intelligence, and shield ongoing diplomacy. A human response meticulously crafted to appear proportionate, reasonable, and civil. This was an operation designed to subtly convey a message to the hegemony, all while keeping our motives unclear to the galactic community. What message? Vexandra pressed. Amy's smile returned, but it held a new frost. Don't touch our people. Don't seize our colonies. Don't hinder our expansion. And if you do, we'll respond with the necessary force, maintaining our diplomatic standing. Were we merely being diplomatic? Free's sound, a near whisper, spoke of unspoken fears. Amy moved around the table, radiating a confidence that belied her determination. The footage, weapons, tactics, the coordination, technological advantage, that's not war. It's preparedness, avoiding it. The room fell silent, and Amy settled. Now that you've seen humanity's diplomatic efforts, what truly concerns you? She waited. If you question humanity's threat to galactic peace, you are asking the wrong question. The correct question is whether the galaxy is a threat to humanity. And if it is, what happens when humanity must defend itself? Amy's smile was terrifyingly sharp. The interrogation room's ventilation whispered a mechanical sigh as three cosmic titans attempted to Amy, poised in her chair, observed her interrogator's escalating distress. Commander Thakris, breathing apparatus wheezing, was the first to compose himself. Captain, when you say humans stopped being diplomatic, what exactly do you mean? Amy settled, her voice calm. Let's discuss Kepler 442's operational parameters. We operated under diplomatic restraint protocols, a set of rules you likely missed in your footage. This involved minimizing collateral damage, preserving enemy assets, avoiding needless loss, and maintaining proportionate responses. Importantly, the engagement had to appear reasonable to external observers. Mexander's skin, already pale, almost shimmered with an unnatural translucence. Reasonable? Amy chuckled. Proportional. If someone steals your lunch, you don't obliterate their world. That was proportional. Ziximon's eyes flickered with incomprehensible hues. Textbook proportional response. They took our people. We returned them. They brought a police fleet. We brought a rescue fleet. Perfectly balanced. Thakris's distress amplified. You destroyed 7 capital ships, vessels critical to our citizens' evacuation. We offered them repeated opportunities to withdraw. The engagement lasted 47 minutes, an eternity in modern warfare. 4 minutes, an adequate response, Vexandru whispered. 4 minutes is generous, Amy corrected. But Admiral Torres, commanding that operation, believed in giving the opposition the option to choose wisely. Very thoughtful, really. Plus, the diplomatic corps wanted us not to appear utterly inept in our negotiations. Bad for ongoing trade, apparently. The aliens exchanged concerned glances. You mentioned Admiral Torres, Ziximon said carefully. Are there other human commanders of importance? Amy laughed. Important? Fun phrasing. About 47 flag officers in rapid response alone. Taurus, actually quite cautious, champions measured escalation and strategic patience. A thoughtful man, writes poetry in his spare time. Amy leaned in conspiratorially. Wanting to know someone the galactic community should know, Admiral Hayes, commanding the 3rd Strike Fleet. Hayes believes in permanent solutions. Vexandra, intrigued yet uncertain, questioned. Meaning? Torres took 47 minutes to disable the hegemony fleet. Hayes would have vaporized it within 4 minutes, then sterilized the entire system. A silence fell, heavy with foreboding. "How many strike fleets does humanity possess?" Zacconi inquired. "Officially, none. The Rapid Response Division, a humanitarian organization. We assist human colonies. Unofficially, we have 12 full strike fleets, 37 rapid response groups, and firepower that would disturb even God." Dice's breathing apparatus sputtered. 12 strike fleets, 14, if you count the experimental units. Best not to mention those in polite society. Vexandra asked, "What experimental units?" Amy replied, "Units that make regular strike fleets seem like simple Coast Guard cutters, but that's for another time. You wanted to know about Kepler 442, right?" She approached the holographic projector, inspecting it with a detached expertise. "A lovely piece of equipment. Microsecond precision, comprehensive spectral breakdown, countered gravitational distortion, ruggedized for combat. Precisely what you need when you crave intense scrutiny of combat footage. Frame by frame," confronted Amy. Her gaze turned to the aliens, her question echoing. "Where did you obtain this evidence?" Vexandra's response was immediate. "Classified." "Is that so?" Amy inquired. Forcing a subtle smile, she revealed her theory. A clandestine observation platform, likely cloaked, deployed near the Kepler 442 system's edge, witnessed the entire encounter. The aliens' uncharacteristic detachment from each other hinted at a deliberate maneuver. Analysis uncovered unprecedented military technology and tactics. The Council, seeking answers, summoned Amy. Her reply to their questions was calculated. The correct questions aren't about what occurred, but when did you discover our observation platforms? How many intelligence networks have been monitored? What have we learned from your hidden watching of us? Alexandra's face paled. Amy spoke gently yet with chilling assurance. "We've monitored your actions in human space for the past 8 years." Her statement, delivered with subtle authority, left them stunned. "Did you really think we wouldn't notice? Our survival instinct fueled the development of sensors to detect every known, and many unknown, forms of stealth. Theakra confirmed this. You were unaware, not threatening, but observing. Our restraint was a tactic." Amy's smile widened. "Witnesses confirmed our defensive actions, demonstrating our capabilities within the galactic community, an efficient psychological strategy." The silent aliens mirrored a quiet understanding. Amy's voice softened, and her gaze held a dangerous curiosity. "What message are you attempting to transmit?" Her own response, deliberate and collected, was as chilling as the questions it posed. The Kepler 442 demonstration was an act of diplomacy, a gentle gesture. The true message? Humans are not to be underestimated. The room fell silent, the air thick with unspoken implications. Amy stood. "Captain, what if humans abandon politeness?" Her hand brushed against the control panel. A cool green glow illuminated the chamber as the door slid open. "If that happens," Amy's voice was now filled with grave implications. "Every intelligence platform observing the galaxy will stop functioning. Every major military installation and government facility will be exposed. The galactic community will see human military doctrine unfettered by diplomacy or restraint." The aliens watched, frozen in terror as Amy's smile was no longer a gesture, but an imminent and irrevocable threat to their galaxy. She stood there, a solitary figure etched against the fading twilight, the weight of untold stories pressing down on her weary shoulders, each breath a silent testament to battles fought and hardships endured. Her gaze lost in the swirling colors of the departing day, a poignant echo of the dreams she held so close, yet felt slipping through her fingers like grains of sand. A chill permeated the interrogation chamber as Amy Brooks strode fully into the doorway. "But fear not, that threat will not materialize." "How can you be certain?" Vexandra questioned, her voice laced with suspicion. Amy's face, previously devoid of warmth, now radiated genuine kindness for the first time since entering. Because your intellects preclude such a foolish error, return to your respective governments. Explain humanity's value as a galactic partner. Recommend that all continue the respectful consideration that has fostered our success. And if not, Zexman inquired, Amy's warmth evaporating faster than the morning mist. Then you will witness firsthand humanity's abandonment of diplomacy. She turned to depart, pausing to glance over her shoulder. One more item, the poker game mentioned. It involves other human fleet commanders in this sector. Admiral Hayes, Admiral Chen, Admiral Wilson, and others. Would your delegation care to observe? I trust they'd relish discussing interspecies cooperation over cards. The door began to close, but Amy halted it with a hand. A word of caution. Hayes cheats, Chen counts cards, and Wilson possesses a maddening knack for winning, making it seem mere luck. Rest assured, we're betting only on modest stakes. What kind of stakes? Fack asked. Amy's grin held a predatory edge. Oh, you know, solar systems, trade routes, the usual. A soft hiss echoed as the door sealed, leaving 3 of the galaxy's most powerful beings isolated. The chamber suddenly too small, too confining. In the ensuing silence, Vexendra spoke first. Did she just declare that human fleet commanders are wagering star systems? I believe, Ziximon slowly replied. She said human commanders are now in this sector, viewing star systems as mere stakes in a game. The Crease's breathing apparatus wheezed like a dying oboe. How many human fleet commanders are currently in this sector? I don't know, Vexandra said, but I think the question itself may be flawed. Then what's the proper question? Ziximon asked. Vexandra paused, gaze fixed on the door where Amy Brooks had just delivered a warning, or perhaps a threat. The correct question, she finally stated, is how long have they been here? The interrogation chamber felt diminished, the walls drawing inward. The 3 council members sat in hushed silence for precisely 17 seconds before their secure communicators buzzed simultaneously. An emergency status update is required, a voice announced via Ziximon's communicator. It was High Chancellor Vexthul, the collective supreme military commander. What is humanity's response to the footage? Ziximon looked at his colleagues. Thakris stared at the door, as if it might shatter. Vexandra calculated furiously on her datapad, her manic energy mirroring someone confronting an unsolvable enigma. Complicated, Ziximon said, explaining. She recognized the engagement. She was there. She coordinated the ground operations. A pause. Impossible. Our intelligence suggests a rogue element's spontaneous reaction. Your intel, Thakiris said, his breathing apparatus finally stabilizing, is incorrect. Vexandra looked up from her calculations, her pale skin tinged with an unnatural gray. We need to discuss something else. The human mentioned Admiral Chen. There's no Admiral Chen in our human military records. Perhaps a recent promotion, Zeximon suggested. Or perhaps, said quietly, our files are incomplete. Vexandra's datapad buzzed, and she stared at the results with a look akin to discovering the foundation of her world is crumbling. I've been running projections based on what the human stated. If humanity has developed military technology for 15 years and the Kepler 40442 engagement represents their diplomatic restraint protocols. She trailed off. What? Zuma demanded. The resource demands alone indicate a military-industrial complex at least 50 times larger than our estimates. Chris, that deflating sound again. 50 times minimum, Vexandra said. That's assuming standard development curves. If they've achieved breakthroughs in manufacturing, resource extraction, or energy generation. Her datapad buzzed again. She stared at it, her posture hardening. "What now?" Zexamon asked. "I've received a priority message from Hegemony Intelligence," she said slowly. "They're detecting anomalous energy signatures in 17 star systems along our border with human space." "What kind of energy signature?" "A kind," Vexandra said, "that indicates the presence of military technology." The flickering lights within the hidden chambers finally succumbed to darkness, leaving a dim, foreboding glow. Bathed in the shadows, the council members appeared as haunted survivors of an unimaginable cataclysm, a reality they were beginning to fear was upon them. "There's more," one of them finally breathed. "The human," she implied they've been observing our intelligence activities for 8 years. "Impossible, Six," Human said, his voice laced with disbelief. "Our stealth technology," his words trailed off, "is apparently not as impenetrable as we believed." Vexendra's sharp tone cut through the air. "Consider the implications. If they've watched us for 8 years, they are aware of the Centauri incident." An icy dread seemed to seep into the very walls, dropping the temperature another 10 degrees. "Save us from the urgent negotiations," Thackeray droned. "They're privy to the vegan trade dispute," Zixamum murmured, his voice barely audible. "They know," Vexandra stated, her voice flat, "about our discussions regarding limiting human expansion." The three sat in stunned silence, wrestling with the enormity of the revelation. For 8 agonizing years, the galaxy's major powers had operated under the delusion that humanity was a technologically inferior species, easily managed through diplomacy and economic leverage. "If the humans have been observing all this time," Zixamum whispered, a sudden, horrifying realization dawning on him, "then the entire interrogation—" She wasn't answering our questions. She was delivering a message. "What message?" Thackeray demanded, his voice tight with apprehension. "That we have been operating under utterly false assumptions about human capabilities, intentions, and knowledge," Vexandra replied, her voice heavy. "And that we must fundamentally recalibrate our relationship with them." A shrill alert tore through the silence. Vexandra's communicator flashed an urgent priority message. As she read, the color drained completely from her already pale skin. "What is it?" the males demanded in unison. "High Command is reporting that 3 of our deep space monitoring stations have gone offline within the last hour," she gasped. "No distress signals, no indication of malfunction. They simply ceased transmitting." "Equipment failure," Tharkra offered, his voice laced with a desperate hope he clearly didn't believe. "All 3 stations were monitoring human space," Vexandra countered, her voice trembling. Zixamum's multifaceted eyes cycled through a spectrum of colors before settling on a shade that approximated existential dread. "She told us," he whispered, his voice hollow. "She said the first sign would be the failure of our observation networks, that humans weren't going to stop being polite." Thackeray protested. "No," Vexandra said, checking her datapad again. "She said it wouldn't happen because we're too smart to make that kind of mistake. But maybe someone else isn't." The chamber's main screen flickered to life, displaying Amy Brooks's face. But she wasn't in the corridor outside. She was seated in what was unmistakably a starship's command center, surrounded by other humans. "Hi again," she greeted them cheerfully. "Hope you don't mind me borrowing your communication system. Human technology, you understand? We excel at making different systems communicate." Zixamum found his voice first, his tone a mixture of anger and fear. "Captain Brooks, where are you?" "Oh, about 40,000 kilometers off your starboard side," Amy replied casually. "Give or take. The kids in navigation are still calibrating their instruments." Vexandra frantically checked her datapad. "There are no ships within sensor range of this station." Amy's smile widened, visible even through the compressed communication link. There weren't 40,000 kilometers off your starboard side until about 10 minutes ago. How? Tech asked. Trade secret, Amy replied lightly. But since we're all friends here, I wanted to give you a heads up. It seems someone in the hegemony military didn't get the memo about maintaining peaceful relations with humanity. Vexandra's face went from white to translucent with horror. What memo? Oh, you know, Amy said, her tone almost dismissive. The one about not trying to use force against human civilians. The one about respecting established colonial boundaries. The one about not testing human resolve with military provocations. The screen split, displaying Amy's face alongside tactical displays that froze the breath in the council members' lungs. See, about 20 minutes ago, a hegemony strike force launched an attack on the human research station at Wolf 359. Amy continued, nothing major, just a police action to investigate reports of treaty violations. I'm sure it was all very official and properly documented. Vexandra worked her communicator, trying desperately to reach Hegemony Command. The responses she received only deepened her terror. The thing is, Amy said, her voice deceptively calm, Wolf 359 isn't just a research station. It's a testing facility for our experimental defense systems. So when your people showed up to conduct their investigation, the tactical display showed what appeared to be the complete and instantaneous destruction of an entire hegemony fleet, not the gradual professional engagement they'd witnessed at Kepler 4042. This was something else entirely. How many ships? Ziximum whispered, his voice trembling. Following text, and nothing more. The old house stood on a windswept hill, its windows like vacant eyes staring out at the stormy sea. A lone figure walked the beach below, their heart heavy with memories of lost love. The waves crashed against the shore, a mournful symphony echoing their pain. Each grain of sand seemed to whisper of what was gone, a reminder of the joy that had faded like the sunset. The wind howled, carrying with it the scent of salt and sorrow. They paused, gazing at the horizon, searching for a glimmer of hope in the vast emptiness. Perched atop a desolate hill, the aged house loomed, its darkened windows resembling empty sockets fixated on the tempestuous ocean. A solitary soul wandered the beach below, their spirit burdened by the aching remnants of vanished affection. The waves relentlessly battered the coastline, a somber melody amplifying their profound suffering. Every particle of sand murmured tales of irretrievable loss, a constant echo of the happiness that had dissolved like a dying ember. The wind shrieked a lament, saturated with the tang of brine and the sting of grief. Halting their steps, they scanned the distant horizon, desperately seeking a fragile beacon of optimism within the boundless void. Just 47 ships, Amy stated evenly, lost in 30 seconds, give or take. We hailed, of course, standard procedure, but they opened fire the moment they arrived. 30 seconds, Tack echoed, stunned. The experimental systems performed beyond expectations, Amy replied, a hint of pride in her voice. The research team is thrilled. Bexisandra, eyes glued to her console, was drowning in emergency transmissions from Hegemony space, her face a mask of horror as if witnessing her civilization's end. Captain Zixmon, she started, her voice trembling. What now? Amy considered, a flicker of calculation in her eyes. It hinges on the Hegemony's reaction to this devastating loss. If they acknowledge a terrible mistake and retreat to agreed borders, nothing further happens. If not, they'll experience our standard defenses firsthand. A dark smile touched her lips. Then they face our offensive systems, and if they remain stubbornly defiant, they'll encounter Admiral Hayes. The mere mention of Hayes sent shivers through the council members. However, Amy continued, striving for optimism, I've always seen the Hegemony as logical. Surely they'll choose wisely. Bexandra looked up, the bearer of ill tidings. The Hegemony Senate has authorized full mobilization of reserve fleets. Amy's smile vanished. That is concerning. How concerning? Zeximon pressed. Let me illustrate, Amy answered grimly. The Wolf 359 station, one of 12 facilities testing defensive systems. 37 more focus on offensive systems, and a final one tackles concepts beyond those parameters. She paused for effect. The Hegemony annihilated an experimental defense station whose prototypes exceeded expectations. Mobilizing their reserves means facing production systems optimized to surpass those prototypes. Vexandra's communicator erupted, a barrage of desperate pleas. The Senate demands swift retaliation, branding the attack unprovoked. Unprovoked? Amy repeated, incredulous. They attacked our base, and our response is deemed unprovoked. So that's their story. A chilling smile reappeared, the kind that sends predators running. Then it seems we must provide a more comprehensive definition of unprovoked. The communication link died, leaving the council members consumed by the cacophony of desperate pleas from Hegemony space. Their reserves. How many ships? Thakris asked. Around 800 vessels, Vexandra answered numbly, scrolling through updates, including their newest dreadnoughts. And humanity? Zeximon asked. How many ships do we have? But none of them answered, because they were all beginning to realize the question itself was likely irrelevant. The only real question was whether it would even matter. Part 4. The Galactic Council's emergency hall hadn't seen such chaos since the Andorian War of old. Representatives from 47 worlds filled the chamber. Their rising panic created a cacophony of distress calls, labored breaths, and the unsettling sounds of varying kinds of prayers. High Arbiter Ziximon stood at the podium, his forearms gesturing with species-specific signs of extreme stress. Behind him, screens displayed galaxy-wide updates, each more dire than the last. Order, he thundered, the room's acoustics amplifying his voice. We must have order. Chancellor Vexel of the Alter Collective jumped up, his mandibles clicking wildly. The Hegemony's second fleet, gone. Vanished from sensors, 800 ships without a trace. Admiral Kexer of the Voran delegation confirmed. Contact was lost with the entire fleet approximately 47 minutes ago. Last position, 12 light-years from Earth. A Conian delegate raised her secondary arms. Our sensors detect colossal energy discharges in that sector. Whatever transpired was... She paused, consulting her datapad. Complete. Councillor Vexandra, isolated in the Hegemony's designated section, was surrounded by a growing pile of emergency transmissions from her government. Her blue skin was ashen, and she remained silent for 20 long minutes. Perhaps, Ambassador Thelman of the Regalian Union offered, we should try to communicate with the humans directly. Hat couldn't be right. A chill snaked down my spine as I reread the message. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat against the sudden stark silence of the room. It felt impossibly wrong, a cruel twist of fate that stole the breath from my lungs. Each word seemed to vibrate with a terrible energy, a phantom ache settling deep within my soul, leaving me paralyzed with disbelief and a growing, suffocating dread. Suddenly, the chamber's main communication array blared to life, overwhelming the ambassador's voice. Every screen ignited with the same stark image: Amy Brooks, seated in a starkly utilitarian military command center. Behind her, human figures moved with practiced, efficient grace. Greetings, Amy's voice resonated clearly through the hall. I trust everyone is enjoying a pleasant day. Silence descended like a shroud. I wanted to clarify some anxieties regarding recent events in the Wolf 3D49 sector, Amy continued smoothly. There seems to be some misunderstanding regarding the fate of the Hegemony's second fleet. Vexandra finally broke the silence, her voice sharp. Captain Brooks, Our fleet was engaged in a lawful investigation into treaty breaches. Your response was a blatant overreaction." Amy's expression remained unruffled, almost serenely pleasant. "Council of Alexandra, your fleet initiated hostilities by attacking an unarmed civilian research facility. Our response was precisely calibrated. You lost 800 vessels." Amy paused, glancing at something beyond the camera's view. Actually, it was 813 vessels, but only 800 were designated military. The other 13 were support craft carrying non-combat personnel. "What became of the non-combatants?" Chancellor Vexual's voice was tight with concern. "They are currently our guests, receiving the best human hospitality aboard our recovery vessels," Amy stated. "They are being treated as standard prisoners of war and will be repatriated to Hegemony space once this situation reaches a peaceful resolution." Admiral Kiegzer leaned forward intently. "Captain, our sensors registered massive energy spikes throughout the sector. What weapon systems are you employing?" Amy's smile was polite, but sent a chill through the hall. "I regret to inform you that that information is classified, Admiral. Military secrets, you understand." "We demand full disclosure," Vexandra declared. "The Galactic Accords mandate—" "The Galactic Accords," Amy interrupted, her voice laced with steel, "mandate that member species refrain from unprovoked attacks on civilian infrastructure. Your fleet flagrantly violated that accord when it opened fire on Wolf 359. She paused, letting the weight of her words settle. "However, since you've inquired about our capabilities, I have received authorization to provide a brief demonstration." The displays shifted, presenting a tactical overview of the local galactic region. Red dots signified the positions of various fleets and installations. A profusion of blue dots marked human positions. The sheer number of blue dots was unsettling. "What you are observing," Amy explained calmly, "is the current disposition of human naval forces within a 50 light-year radius of this station." Chancellor Vexthul was frantically counting the blue dots, his face paling. "That's impossible. Our intelligence indicates humanity possesses at most 30 vessels in this entire sector." "Your intelligence," Amy said gently, "has been consistently inaccurate regarding a wide variety of matters." The display zoomed in, focusing on the immediate vicinity of the council station. Blue dots swarmed, dozens of them, all within striking distance. "The reality is," Amy continued, "we've been observing this situation with meticulous care. When the Hegemony Senate voted for full mobilization, we deemed it prudent to adjust our own readiness posture." Ambassador Thelman stared at the display in growing horror. "How long have those ships been there?" "Some have been in position for hours," Amy responded. "Others for days. A select few have been stationed in this region for months, patiently awaiting an act sufficiently foolish to warrant revealing their presence." Beeks was frantically working her communicator. "Our sensors show no indication of human ships in those positions." "Of course not," Amy said, her eyes glinting. "Why would we rely on technology you can detect when we have access to technology you cannot?" The chamber erupted into a cacophony of languages as representatives desperately tried to contact their governments. Amy waited patiently for the chaos to subside. "Now," she continued, "I understand what you're all wondering. You're speculating about humanity's objectives, our demands, and our plans for these capabilities." She leaned back in her chair, appearing remarkably relaxed. "The answer is quite simple. Nothing." "Silence," a voice echoed. "Nothing?" Zygzamon asked, bewildered. "Precisely," Amy confirmed. "We have no desire to claim your territory, conquer your worlds, or impose human laws or culture on anyone who rejects them." "Then what do you want?" Chancellor Vexthul demanded, his voice rising. Amy's expression turned serious, her gaze piercing. "We want to be left in peace." to expand into unoccupied systems without meddling, to establish colonies without justifying our existence to committees of species who have never set foot on the worlds in question. We yearn for open trade, a world where our access to resources isn't unjustly limited. Cartels secretly view humanity as expendable pawns. A surge of righteous anger flared in Amy as she rose. We refuse to pretend the Galactic Accords are anything but a tool of subjugation, she declared, her voice ringing with defiance. This council doesn't represent all species equally. It's a sham. Silence fell. Amy continued, humans demand recognition. We won't be controlled, limited, or attacked at someone's whim. She sat, her anger momentarily subsiding. The Hijgamani will formally apologize for the Wolf 359 assault. They'll compensate the victims' families and remove all forces from within 20 light-years of our space. Vexandra scoffed. Impossible. Those systems are crucial supply routes. Amy smiled. Then find new ones, or politely request transit through human space. Admiral Quakes questioned. Those are unclaimed systems. Amy's smile widened. Not anymore. The display shifted, revealing vast swaths of space now marked as blue, human territory. 47 systems colonized in 6 hours, Amy explained. The Galactic Accords grant us first claim. Vexandra stared, betrayed. Amy revealed, we were prepared. The Hijgamani's attack triggered our pre-positioned expeditions. This is just the beginning. We're ready for 200 more systems. The sheer scale of the expansion stunned the chamber. Humanity's military strength wasn't just revealed, it was unleashed. Vexandra whispered, your terms? Apology, compensation, withdrawal, Amy stated, her tone hardening. Refusal? She paused, the chilling implication hanging in the air. Then you'll discover the true nature of unfettered human military doctrine. Chancellor X-Thul gasped. War? Amy appeared genuinely puzzled. Who said anything about war? It's a police action, to prevent future attacks. A police action against an entire empire. A very thorough one, Amy confirmed, to ensure lasting compliance with interstellar law. Ambassador Thelman trembled. This will destabilize galactic power. Amy contemplated. Will it? The Hijgemony has intimidated weaker species for centuries, manipulated trade, and blocked territorial expansion. If removing their power destabilizes the balance, perhaps it needed destabilizing. A wave of hope washed over the chamber, replacing panic. Smaller species reassessed galactic politics. Zixamon stated, this is revolution. Evolution, Amy corrected. The galaxy's vast enough for everyone, but not if some species act as overlords. Humanity doesn't seek galactic rule just to prevent anyone else from doing so. Vexandra's expression reflected increasingly dire news from the Hijgamani. Captain, a grave situation has emerged. Reports flood in. Human forces have brazenly entered Hijgamoni space. Rescue operations, Amy declared, her voice tight. We're evacuating all human civilians from Hijgamoni worlds, preemptively, just in case your government considers taking hostages. A hushed question rippled. How many civilians? Her answer, relayed to the Carter, dropped like a sonic boom, silencing the chamber. Admiral Quare, his voice carefully measured, asked, Captain, are you implying humanity intends to evacuate every single human civilian from Hijgamoni territory? We're saying we've already begun, Amy stated, unwavering. Approximately 4 million humans resided, worked, and contributed within Hijgamoni space. As of 2 hours ago, every single one is en route to designated safety zones aboard human vessels. Chancellor Vexandra repeated the staggering number. 4 million, evacuated in 2 hours. We excel at efficiency when driven, Amy replied, her tone laced with steel. Vexandra, her face etched with defeat, looked up from her comms. The Senate demands immediate negotiations. A predatory smile played on Amy's lips. I imagine they do. State your terms for negotiation. The same terms I outlined previously. Apology, compensation, withdrawal, non-negotiable. And if we concede, humanity resumes its relentless expansion into unclaimed space. The hegemony acknowledges your fabricated territorial claims, and everyone simply reverts to their previous state. Trade continues, diplomacy is restored, and no one else experiences these unforeseen exhibitions of human prowess. Amy's smile sharpened, becoming a weapon. Should you refuse, tomorrow you will comprehend the full spectrum of responses Admiral Hayes deems fitting for ongoing hegemony aggression. The name Hayes visibly shuddered through the gathered dignitaries. Captain Zeximon, speaking for the Galactic Council, implored, "We earnestly encourage all parties to seek diplomatic resolution to this situation." "Of course you do," Amy replied, a hint of amusement in her voice. "That's precisely the Council's purpose, encouraging diplomatic solutions." She rose, her expression softening, almost inviting. "Esteemed representatives of the galactic community," she began, addressing the entire assembly. "Humanity harbors no desire to destabilize the galactic order. We value trade, appreciate cultural exchange, and especially cherish the fact that interstellar war has been absent for 3 centuries. She paused, letting the weight of her words sink in. "However, we refuse to be treated as subservient. We will not accept arbitrary limitations on our expansion that are not universally applied. And we will certainly not tolerate military assaults against our people." The primary communication displays flickered, revealing a live feed of space surrounding the council station. An impenetrable formation of blue dots, human warships, surrounded the facility, a protective yet inescapable net. "The choice is yours," Amy said, her voice resonant. "Collaborate with us as equals, or experience the consequences of standing against us." Vexandra asked, her voice laced with dread. "And Admiral Hayes?" A feral grin spread across Amy's face. "Admiral Hayes is currently en route to hegemony space with the 3rd Strike Fleet. Estimated arrival, approximately 18 hours. Her orders? To ensure humanity never again has cause to fear unprovoked attacks on our civilians." The transmission severed, leaving the chamber in stunned silence. After an eternity, Zeximon found his voice. "Motion to formally recognize humanity's territorial claims and recommend immediate compliance with their stated terms." "Seconded," Chancellor Vex Thu responded instantly. "Thirded," Admiral Sexair added without hesitation. "All in favor?" Zeximon asked, his voice trembling. Every appendage, manipulator, tentacle, and limb in the chamber rose in unison. "Unanimous," Zeximon declared, his voice hollow. "The motion carries." Vexandra scanned the chamber, the faces of 47 species mirroring a chilling consensus. "I will convey the Council's recommendation to the Hegemony Senate," she said softly. "Quickly," Ambassador Thelman urged, "before Admiral Hayes arrives." Vexandra nodded, beginning to compose what might be the most crucial message in hegemony history. 18 hours distant, Admiral Hayes reviewed her orders, a smile playing on her lips, the kind of smile that made black holes nervous. But that, as they say, is another story.